Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today. I will cover everything in just a moment, but this session is going to be focused overall on finding and applying for internships. All right, and here is our agenda. We're going to walk through some of the common misconceptions, talk about internships and how to find them, and then discuss the application process and decision about how to find your perfect internship. Okay, so let's start off by debunking some of the common misconceptions about internships. First one is going to be that you need an internship to get a job after graduation. And that is not true. You are going to be okay if you don't have a chance to intern. However, we do have data that shows that employers view internship experience as a bonus. So you are usually more of a competitive applicant if you have some sort of experiential learning on your resume. On the other hand, if you are focused on graduate or professional school after graduation, they value related extracurriculars over internships. So, getting that direct patient interaction or doing undergraduate research might be a better thing to focus on if that is your goal. Another misconception is that you should always be interning. Most students don't get an internship until the summer after their junior year. At that point, they're typically in their major and they have a better idea of the kind of career that they want to pursue. Some competitive fields like accounting or finance or engineering can have internships that are available for first and second year students. That's really not the norm across most industries. Ultimately, there are going to be many ways that you can build your experience, skills, and knowledge, even if you are not an intern. Focus on opportunities that allow you to get experience that you can leverage on future applications, as that is what is going to be most important. Another myth is that internships require you to have a ton of relevant experience. Many employers recognize that internships are going to be a learning experience and try to be mindful of the requirements for their applicants. That is where a strong cover letter can be really helpful in explaining how you can succeed at their internship, even if you don't have a ton of experience. And interns are going to be having unpaid internships. They tend to be most common in nonprofit or government organizations, but they can still be useful in building skills and growing your professional network. And you can usually apply for scholarships or register for academic credit as a way to make them more appealing. Another common misconception is that you need to meet 100% of the qualifications before you can apply for that experience. Ultimately, that is again where your application materials are going to be super handy. So even if you meet about 60% of those requirements, a few of those might be stretch goals or things that you can learn on the job as you enter that organization. Um, Again, just try to apply, get your name in there, and see if you're able to get an interview. All right, so those were some of the myths, but now let's jump into what internships actually are. So internships are learning experiences that allow you to learn what you've applied in a classroom to a real world setting, further develop your skills, or explore career interests. They can be paid or unpaid, taken for credit or not. Most last at least 1 quarter, such as summer internships, but some industries have you commit for the entire academic year. So, as you can see, each internship is a little bit different. During the school year, internships are typically part time, and most students work at their site about 10 to 15 hours per week. Over the summer, they tend to be closer to full-time jobs where maybe you are working at that site 40 hours a week. And internships can look very different depending on the organization, role, and industry. You can be at a for-profit, nonprofit, or government organization. You can be outside in the field collecting samples, or be in an office working collaboratively with other team members. Or maybe you're more independent where you're assigned projects and just check in with your supervisor on a regular basis. I will mention that entirely remote internships are becoming less common, but there has been an increase in hybrid internships across nearly all industries. While internships can sound similar to entry-level jobs, the key differences are that internships should be explicitly focused on your learning. Your supervisor should recognize that you may not have all of the knowledge and experience in the role compared to someone who is hired at that organization. And jobs usually don't have a defined end date. So, unlike an internship, you would stay at that same job until you decide to move on or you get laid off. Finally, internships are often project based. So, you have a defined project or a set of tasks that are laid out for you at the beginning of your internship. And that tends to provide more feedback and structure than a traditional entry level job. And as you can see, there are a lot of reasons to consider an internship. You can work on skills, have a low stakes way to check out a job that you might be interested in upon graduation, build your professional network, and have experience to add to your resume or to talk about during the interview process and future applications. I would encourage you to reflect on what your goals are for the internship so that you can use that as guidance when you're searching for opportunities. And now let's talk about how you can find those opportunities. I did want to acknowledge that it can be a stressful process. So try to have realistic expectations. There might be times where you have to apply for dozens of internships, or maybe you get your first one and that's going to be your interview and you get an offer. And ultimately, it's going to be a little bit of hit or miss. So take that time to connect with your network, get that support. If you ever become overwhelmed, feel free to take a break and keep track of all of the effort that you are making. And ultimately, just keep trying small. So that little bit of progress every single day is going to be what pays off in the end versus a big slew of full applications on one day and just throwing everything to the wind. And again, take that time to reflect on your internships, what your goals are, what you might want to gain, as that will guide you through the actual application process. All right, so how you can find an internship tends to be around these three big buckets, which can be interconnected. So finding opportunities comes down to talking to people, connecting with campus resources, and using the internet. So talking to people is going to be your best first step. Almost half of Huskies say that a contact helps them get a job, so chatting with friends or asking your family if they know of any opportunities is a simple way to start. I would especially encourage you to connect with your faculty and advisors. Faculty are in charge of labs, centers, and are involved in organizations across the country so they can be aware of opportunities that align more closely with your interests. And advisors often get contacted by employers directly, especially if they want to hire students from a specific major. I do want to recognize that not everyone is going to have that built-in network of contacts of people that are closely connected to fields that they are interested in or jobs that they want to have. And that's where career fairs and events like information sessions, career conversations, and employer-led workshops come in. The overwhelming majority of employers will extend offers after fairs. And what that means is that you as a student, you met the recruiter, maybe sent them a follow-up email expressing interest, and then the recruiter extended an interview offer. Across campus, there are over 75 events that take place each year, and you can view them all on Handshake. And Handshake is going to be the first campus resource I would really recommend when you're looking for internships. The vast majority of internships posted on Handshake are paid. The only exceptions are for some government and nonprofit positions. Your department may also have its own website or job board, so check with your advisor to see if there are any specific resources available for internships in your major. And if you are interested in learning more about the social services, nonprofit, and government roles, I would also really encourage you to connect with Sully, as their entire focus is going to be on community engagement. When setting up your Handshake, I would encourage you to fully complete your profile so that you can make the most of it. Having that updated profile gives you access to virtual career fairs and employer events and will also help recruiters find you. Use those filters to narrow your search results. So as we mentioned, there are going to be thousands and thousands of internships posted every year, so you'll want to avoid aimlessly scrolling through thousands of opportunities. You can set up a saved search that automatically messages you if there are any opportunities that fit your specific criteria. And definitely give unfamiliar companies a chance, explore their website, see if it might be a good fit. About 60% of internship postings in Handshake get 3 or less applications from UW students, so being open to the smaller and lesser known organizations can raise your chances of getting an interview. And while we see the biggest spike of postings in the winter quarter, there are going to be many employers that have positions available throughout spring and even into summer as they focus on just-in-time recruiting once they have a better idea of how many interns they can actually support them. So don't get discouraged if you don't see a ton of opportunities right away. You can also search beyond Handshake. So way up, LinkedIn and Indeed are going to be those traditional job boards, and you'll find a wide range of positions and all kinds of industries on there. Google is going to pull from multiple websites, but you might end up with opportunities that are going to be a little bit out of date or that have very specific requirements. And Idealist is more focused on nonprofits and community-based organizations, so that can be a little bit more niche. But all of these can be useful as you start your search. If you already have a few employers in mind, maybe you've had friends or advisors mention them to you, I would also encourage you to go directly to their website to view any upcoming internships. And generative AI tools like ChatGPT can provide you more specific websites or companies to look into if you do have a very niche interest that you're having a hard time finding on those more traditional job boards. As you get to searching, you might have what ifs that come up. So, what if you can't find something that interests you, or maybe the employer that you were super excited about doesn't actually have an internship program, or the roles that you're finding are so specific that you don't quite have the skills or experience to apply for them? You can also create your own internship. This often works best in smaller organizations like startups or nonprofits. Showcasing your enthusiasm and putting in the preliminary work for the employer goes a long way. Employers appreciate it when you're making it easy for them to see what you will contribute as an intern and why you're passionate about joining their organization. If you are doing this, well crafted materials are going to be critical. And again, the title of intern is not as important as the skills that you're developing during the experience, and you can find ways to build those outside of an internship. Use your class projects on your resume and track what you're learning. Join an RSO or volunteer at an organization that you're interested in. Participate in events like a hackathon where maybe it's a little bit more high profile. All of those are going to be ways that you can learn new skills or develop existing ones. You can also learn more about a job or industry by checking out LinkedIn Learning and doing a micro internship, which are all linked on our website. I also don't want to dismiss working part time. Even if you're on campus or off campus, you'll gain transferable skills and you have a reference for future opportunities from those jobs. All right. So now that you know what an internship is and how to find one, when do you start looking? So typically, you are going to be seeing the highest spike for summer internships in winter quarter. So they tend to hire about 6 months in advance. However, you are still going to find some of those organizations hiring throughout June and into summer because, again, of that just in time recruiting. In fall quarter, as you're starting your beginning of your academic year, that's when some of those really competitive fields like finance and accounting are going to be recruiting for their upcoming summer. So if you are in one of those fields, I would encourage you to start looking as soon as possible during the academic year, as you'll be seeing a lot of those internships positions be filled before the end of the quarter. And then finally, if you're more interested in interning during the academic year, start looking about 3 months in advance. That is when you're going to have organizations have a better idea of how many people they're hiring for and posting those positions so that you can find them. All right. So once you've found an internship, the next step is to apply. Most internship applications are going to require the same materials as a job. So focus on updating a resume, crafting a solid cover letter, and preparing for the interview is going to be a good starting point. And our office has plenty of resources to help. We have workshops and plenty of how-tos on our website. You can also use our online resume review for quick feedback or stop by during drop-in hours to speak with a career coach. Another way to prepare is to ask yourself what employers are looking for from their applicants. So there are going to be the tangible skills that are listed in the position description, as well as relevant experience that you can highlight in your resume or your cover letter. But there are also intangibles like, are you excited about the job? Do you come across as being genuinely interested in the role or the company? And are you showcasing your background or perspective to show how you can be an asset to the team? And it does take a ton of work. Taking the time to create different versions of your resume and application materials that are catered to the types of positions that you're applying for, searching for a good fit, networking, and talking to people, all of that is going to take up a good chunk of your time. But it will be worth it when you find a great opportunity. I would also encourage you, again, to apply to positions that you're excited about, even if you don't meet all of the criteria. Unfortunately, you will probably get some rejections or maybe even get ghosted by employers, which can be frustrating, but celebrating your wins is a good way to stay motivated. And as always, if you need any additional support, you can come to us for help. Again, here is a reminder that everything is going to be taking time, even if you're applying to applications and you're submitting things for all a bunch of organizations, multiple weeks. Try to track your small wins and ask for help. All right, so now that you've got your internship offer, now you need to figure out whether or not you're actually going to take it. So try to review the job offer and the organization and identify if it's a position that you're going to find meaningful and that is reasonable for you as a student, depending on all of the different commitments that you have going on. If they're asking for 40 hours a week and you're already working another part-time job and you're taking a full-time course load, maybe that job description and that internship is not right for you at this point in time. Is your employer going to be providing you learning opportunities? Is the internship actually building your skill set? And are you getting regular mentorship from that employer? And again, figuring out what you are interested in, if it's something that you're going to be able to fully engage in during the time that you are interning, and if you have the time and ability to really prioritize that internship, again, based on all of the different responsibilities that you have. All right, so now that you have reviewed everything, take the time to network, utilize Handshake and other online tools, check out the company websites to find opportunities related to internships that you might be interested in, and then review your resume, make sure that it makes sense, that it's easy to follow, that it's formatted well, and take the time to draft a few different versions of your cover letter. Again, tailored to the different types of jobs or industries that you are applying to. I recognize that not everyone is going to be applying to the same exact internship every single time. But if you have a few different fields or general types of jobs and internships that you're applying to, just have a quick template that you can sub in and out the different employers' names or the types of duties that you're going to be engaging in. And then again, it's going to be a really frustrating process at times. So be sure to utilize the resources, come in and chat with our career coaches, attend career fairs, and take the time to do a mock interview or have other sort of feedback on your interview and application process.